First of all, thank you for all being here. Finally, we're through all those different details. But it's going to be a very lovely opportunity to get to know each other and promote cultural diplomacy as well. Coming from the Costa Rican perspective, it's not only my honor to welcome you all to, dear guests, dear excellencies as well. We are here basically to identify basically major interest goals that we all share. And given the fact that, yes, the problem is right now our world that is giving us some headaches. Little by little, minute by minute, day by day, we have been having geopolitical tensions all over. Not to mention social polarization, not only misinformation, digital fragmentation, and growing pressure from different democratic institutions all over the world. Today, I would like to promote some reflections, some thoughts, and interact with you about those issues. Yes, we're interconnected, but a very important part of us is culture. And here's where we are. In this context, traditional diplomacy remains important, yes, very well, but it's often not enough, to create a lasting understanding between societies. We got to do a lot more. More and more international influence depends on not only the economic strength of our nations, or some nations, or military capabilities, but also the ability to generate trust from the other side. We need to build up on credibility. We need to build up on legitimacy and mutual understanding and respect. And actually, there's where cultural diplomacy is where it becomes particularly very relevant. At its core, cultural diplomacy is the ability basically to bridge through culture, knowledge, education, values, and human exchange, like we are doing right now. It creates opportunities for dialogue, political channels to become, when there are difficult times, there's where we bridge. Help societies to connect beyond not only governments and institutions. The concept as such, it's what Mr. Joseph Nye called the soft power that we already know about. Soft power as ability to influence others through attraction rather than coercion. In the 21st century, countries increasingly compete not only through what they possess, but through what they represent. Again, we talk about culture, education, science, innovation, democratic values, and international credibility. They all become strategic assets. The most actually influential nations in our times will nowadays not necessarily be those with the largest armies or economies, but those capable of inspiring trust and projecting values. Okay. Germany, from one side, like we know, it's very interesting and has an interesting perspective on this issue. Yes, the president, Mr. Steinmeier, we all know him. He has been stating in many occasions that culture is not merely an accessory of foreign policy, but it is a pillar of democracy itself. Again, it is a pillar. Cultural is a pillar. The vision is, again, Mr. Steinmeier. This vision is reflected in several key principles: artistic freedom, cultural autonomy, historical memory, social cohesion, and the very best, long-term exchange. Okay? We need to build on long-term relationships, not occasional. Okay? Institutions such as, for example, the Goethe Institute, we all know, enjoys significant independence and credibility, while universities, artists, scientists, and cultural organizations, contribute to building relationships that often last longer than political cycles. Okay? More broadly, the European approach, as it is, it emphasizes on heritage, shared heritage, intercultural dialogue, cultural diversity, and peaceful cooperation. In this sense, culture is viewed as not simply as a cultural asset, but as a part of a democratic infrastructure of society. Again, this is the German and the European position. In different areas of this world, we must see some other perspectives. Europe, for example, like we said, is emphasized on dialogue and shared heritage, compared to, let's say, United States as an example. Its traditional projects influence through innovation, entrepreneurship, technology, higher education, and its creative industries. As opposed to that, Latin America, Costa Rica. By contrast, we tend to focus on our identity. Okay. Our identity, our diversity, our heritage, our preservation, our regional integration, and social inclusion. Yes, Latin America is a very vast land, and we are very different from one country to another, but still there are many common bases that get together and bridges us in a very interesting area. Although this approach is differ from European, German, and Latin America and United States, we need to, at the very end of the story, foster understanding and also inclusion and cooperation. Costa Rica, as such, like in this case of my country, offers an interesting case within this global conversation. Our country has never, ever relied on military power. Like you might know, Costa Rica doesn't have any military. We learned from the Second World War, and we don't build on blood. We built on our radars and our canyons. We talk, we dialogue, we promote culture. In that aspect, we are, since 1949, a very long-lasting, stable country, one of the longest, most stable countries and democracies in the world. So, never ever relied on military power, never projected influence on that area internationally. Instead, Costa Rica has and built on this strategic asset, our credibility. How do we build credibility? That is the major question. That is it, where we're here today. Costa Rican diplomacy is built upon 4 fundamental pillars. Peace, extremely important for everyone. Democracy, as an example, that we might promote every single minute. Education, being required as a must in order to participate from the regular system interacting with other nations. And at the very end of the story, we might say, what else is also important? Sustainability. We might work on our resources all over the world, not only forestry, tropical forestry, but also we have another major issue here. We have to take care of our ocean, and there's where we are. Costa Rica is obliged to participate and take care of our worldwide ocean. In regard to this, Costa Rica got together about 2 years ago, presenting with France this project worldwide where we are taking care of our water. Then, we're about 48 countries nowadays, since we have to take care of that resource. 4% of our water are potable water, drinkable water, and we need to take care of that as a part of our energy program as well. So let's forget about, right now, peace, which is fantastic, it's a must. Democracy, again, education, and sustainability. As you might know, Costa Rica already know, many of you, I don't know how many of you have been in Costa Rica already. I know you, okay. Costa Rica is a very tiny little country. In fact, we're being called ticos. Ticos, T-I-C-O-S. And I don't know if you have heard about that word before. Ticos is a very interesting word for us. We are a small country. Pequeñito is a very little country, but we are smaller than that. Pequeñititico. That ending is where we are, ticos. And because of that, we are worldwide known. And regarding to that is because we are not only eager to promote our little country, our little resources, yes, but those little resources nowadays, we have to understand we are not even half the size of Bavaria. But we have, God bless, 6.5% of the biodiversity of the whole world. The Amazon region has 20 times bigger, if not hundreds times bigger than Costa Rica, has 10.7. Costa Rica has 6.5. And we are such a tiny country. This week, Costa Rica got awarded by the UN as the most biodensity country in the world. Okay, in that aspect, we are obliged to work on that issue. We have several resources, yes, but we need to promote taking care of that because we depend on not only water, but decarbonization and many other energies that we want to. We don't want to touch our gold, we don't want to touch our forestry. In fact, talking about forestry, Costa Rica had to face a major disaster during the 30s, all the way 40s and 50s, all the way to the 70s. Our forestry got decapitated. We destroyed our country. We decided to sell our woods worldwide. We were eager to sell our woods because they were so good, so well renowned. But because from the other part of the equation, since 1949, since we don't have any military, those issues combined together, they produce a very nice result. And you got to understand me now how they combine this. By building up on education, because of saving all those military expenses since 1949, we went into academia and school. And basically what we promote is free schooling and all the way to universities. We promote one, if not two, if not three careers. We've got to produce 3-4 times as much as we want to and need to. We are a very little country. We're 5 million people. We're as big as Berlin, okay, population-wise. But at the same token, we need to produce a lot more than Berlin. And how to, if you were in and have been in a developing facility, okay? We have been focused on education since we don't have military. Because of education, we came to this conclusion. We can no longer continue deforesting Costa Rica like we did. Back then, during the 70s, Costa Rica came to a conclusion. We needed to promote a new law to regulate our forestry. Our forestry became basically our next brand and next inspiration, next vision. We decided to, the country, decided to promote 1/3 of the country as a natural park. 1/3 of the country. We want to combat one thing, one issue, one major issue, worldwide has been known. You got to deploy the forest in order to build up industry, in order to continue growing. That paradigm has been, by Costa Rica, contested. In fact, it's the only country in the world that so far between the 70s all the way until now, we duplicated the forestry and multiplied by 5 times our gross national product. Having intact, those primary forests made a humongous difference. That impact, also parallel to this issue, started while we're well aware, ecotourism already in the 80s. We built on ecotourism, not on mass tourism. But anyway, that part of the whole story goes all the way to taking care of nature, our biodiversity, and promoting peace as it is with nature. There's where we are at the very end of the story. There is a Costa Rican saying, pura vida. Pura vida means pure life. Pure life is regarding nature. Nowadays, pura vida is a concept of 28 different orientations. It's a philosophy. If I want to go ahead and get together with the concept, I need to be basic, because in order for you to go to Costa Rica, you need to know, if you know Spanish, you might go around with pura vida all day long. Pura vida for, hey, good morning, pura vida at night, pura vida for whatever occasion. Pure life means be happy about with what you got, with what you can do, and be better for tomorrow, be prepared for tomorrow. There's a whole philosophy, there's the whole dynamic, there's a philosophy behind this. So, perhaps it's one of the most patented version of Costa Rica worldwide, that pura vida. In fact, the moment you arrive in Costa Rica, you will see, and you will remember at this occasion, pura vida means Costa Rica. And everyone that has a shirt with pura vida, I've been in Costa Rica. Okay. It's more than a slogan. It represents a cultural philosophy. It's centered in optimism, coexistence, well-being, respect for both people and nature. Basically, that has been the basic of all our success, respecting where we come from with and around nature. Okay, so we want to be basic, but very oriented to those resources. Okay, let's not forget about that. Costa Rica Pura Vida. It's a part of our logo in Essential Costa Rica. That's a key issue. Cultural diplomacy as such in Costa Rica promotes human rights, yes. Diversity is on our agenda. Inclusion, freedom of expression, civic participation, academic exchange, trust, and trust, social cohesion, and sustainable development. In this case, like where we are at this institute, and also universities, this is a very important issue where we promote, and through those institutions, promote knowledge, innovation, vision, scientific cooperation, and long-term international partnerships. Also together with artists, like in this case at Babel, okay? Researchers and cultural institutions and universities help transform dialogue into cooperation. Transform dialogue into cooperation. We act and ideas into shared solutions. Ideas into shared solutions. Let me come, basically, since we're running out of time, I'm going to cut on this, but let's go ahead and conclude some of this main issue. As opposed to Germany and Europe, heritage is very important. Culture is a strategic issue, like we already said so. In our case, we want to continue emphasizing and strategic importance of cultural diplomacy by building trust, strengthening our democratic values, and supporting sustainable development and fostering at the same time international cooperation. Costa Rica demonstrates how culture can project peace, sustainability, human rights, and credibility by acting and doing so. Okay? It's not just a matter of just having a legal framework. It's doing so and respecting that and promoting that and focus. Again, those visions between Europe, Germany, Latin America, about cultural diplomacy, United States. Again, those are complementary approaches to cultural diplomacy. We are, yes, in a very fragmented world, but what we need to do is remain focused on few instruments capable of transforming national identity from one side into a global dialogue, building a lasting and understanding between societies, okay, lasting environment. At the very end, yes, countries are no longer judged by their economies or military powers. We need to increasingly inspire others to work on their values, promoting their values, and projecting their trust. Okay? They need to inspire their values more, consequently, on a daily basis, on a strategic way. At the very end of the story, yes, let me close with this remark. Cultural diplomacy, in my case, I would like to round it up with this thought. It is the bridge between those values and the international influence. Values, international relationships. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. We are running behind schedule, but I'd be very happy to take one or two brief questions or comments. As always, if you could briefly raise your hand and then introduce yourself so we know what is your name, where you're from. We have a very diverse audience. We'll start ladies first. One, two.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your talk. I find Costa Rica's commitment to peace and sustainability incredibly inspiring. And something that I find interesting about the country is its lack of military. And I've heard the argument that that's not replicable for other countries because Costa Rica is so small. But I'm kind of curious to know your thoughts if you disagree and if other countries can learn from Costa Rica's example of essentially demilitarizing.
Prior to demilitarizing, I promote education. We need to promote respect. We need to promote getting to know each other better, dialogue, understanding where we're coming from, where we want to be heading, work on solutions. We have to be prioritizing those common ideals. Because as long as we have different ideas, if you want to fight, hey, how can you stop someone, okay? No matter how much, in this case, you see scenarios like this, Germany is being forced to build up again because there's another one, someone promoting the opposite. Instead of peace, promoting something that we don't want to call peace, okay? It's a matter of just will, respect. And that aspect is about just going back to this table and getting to promote, yes, somehow, and come through peace agreement. Thank you.
Good morning, Ambassador. My name is Sandeep. I'm a master's student here at the ICD. I come from India. Great presentation, first of all, and I also like the gesture of you going around and shaking hands with everyone and getting to know them before starting the day. I think that was wonderful and serves as a great lesson to everyone present here in the future conduct. My question to you is, based on the basis of a very brief search that I did during your presentation, Costa Rica's GDP has a 10 to 12% contribution from the tourism sector. Now, with this philosophy of Pura Vida that you talked about at great length, which I think is a wonderful idea, a catchphrase that constantly reminds you of what needs to be kept in mind is a wonderful way of incorporating sustainability and greater thoughts. But how is this philosophy of Pura Vida also informing your tourism policies? Because you attract a lot of tourists, but is it sustainable? And if yes, how are you ensuring that it is sustainable?
Excellent question. Yes. Again, as a very small country, you might imagine if we might have 200,000 tourists, it's not a problem. Yes, we're having 2 million nowadays on an average basis. But let's say in a humble basis, to be honest, Costa Rica is doing a boutique tourism vision. It's practicing a very targeted market, like in this case, the German market, where they spend not 3 days, what we see on a common basis from the United States coming and flying within the 3 hours that you are apart from Florida to Costa Rica for some fishing, taking basically their rods and fishing some and returning back. The Germans, I suppose, they are spending up to 21, if not 23 days on average. They spend their families. Therefore, a real vacationing regarding nature in the Caribbean, nature in the Pacific, or around the volcanoes. Costa Rica has 9 volcanoes. And this is why, from our perspective, because of peaceful orientation and volcanoes and many other factors, they have been telling us that we resemble Switzerland in Latin America. Okay? But it's the peaceful orientation, neutrality, so far. What we try to do is better, less tourism. It's though very sadly to know that we are being called one of the most expensive places in Latin America. Yes, and because we tax basically everything, and we know kind of fundings, what we need to do is fund those natural reserves as well. They cost a lot of money, but that yard belongs to every one of us. And we need to we need to keep on that. The green aspect of that is impressively important. And so by that, we also restrict very much our entrance to our country. Not, again, because we want to, no, because we want to filter the real interest people that are coming with this perception of getting to know what's going on in Costa Rica and how to respect that. Glamour camping, what's that? Yeah, camping with some glamour in and around the jungle. That's something different as opposed to having those high rises. Yes. And as opposed to having all those beautiful highways. No, we don't have beautiful highways. We have a very collapsed infrastructure. Okay? Building on that. But at the same time, we don't want to build on that because we don't have to go and work on that orientation, on those mass tourism orientations. We don't like that. But as opposed to that, we respect and we promote our research prior anything but that. Everything goes back to the main issue, sustainability. Thank you.
Let's express our sincere gratitude to the veterans.